Hello everyone, hello and welcome. Thanks for joining. Hi friends, this is Jennifer from Personal Power Life Coaching for Wellness. And I was driving home today and I started making a video about a good message, a main message that I've been receiving since this morning, and that comes up from day to day, not often, but it's just something that I keep reminding myself and that I am reminded of by life. And it's about competition and feeling sometimes like you're racing. When you're on the road driving, or even when you're a passenger, or you're on the bus or the train, or at work, in business, definitely in business, even within our families and close relationships and friendships, is the notion of competition and racing against another person, and wanting to be better, wanting to be the best, or being number one. And what I remind myself in those moments that may be helpful and useful for you moving forward in your life is that life is not a competition and it's not a race, not anymore. I've been listening to a really interesting psychologist, Dr. Doug Lisle, and I've been listening to a lot of what he has to say, and he usually refers to or bases his analyses on how we developed and evolved as cave people in the Stone Age era, when we were just gatherers and bearers, or I think that's the terminology, but when we basically were foraging in nature, surviving for food. Men were doing the hunting for food. Women were raising the babies and taking care of them in the domestic hearth. And the people who lived at that time, thousands of years ago, had to brave the elements of the world, of the earth, of the terrain. And one of the main notions was survival of the fittest. You had to be really fit and strong and physically strong and even mentally strong to know how to survive and adapt and to kill for food, and to find the adequate foods in nature, in foraging and knowing what was deadly, what was edible, building a home, building fires, etc., etc. So it was a race, it was a competition, it was a race against sunset, because you had only limited hours of light, of natural light, to find food and to find the tools and the items, elements from nature that you could use to build your safe and more enduring existence. So the point is that we're not in that Stone Age anymore. We're not Paleolithic people. We're not cavemen or cave women hunting in the wild for our food, or needing to make sure to get home before sunset because otherwise we have no light. That's no longer the case, and hence it's no longer the case that we're competing and that we're fighting for resources. It may seem that way, but what are you really competing for? What are you really racing for? Are you looking for or competing for approval from other people, from specific audiences, or you want to get to a certain place? But you see, the thing is that it never ends, and there's always something more to race for. There's always something more to compete for, and that can be very enjoyable to some people, and it can be very engaging and life-giving, such as in commerce and business. When you have competition, it can motivate someone or a company or an individual to be better, provide more, have a better service offering, create and generate new ideas that thus make their business more profitable and more competitive to stay afloat in the market. And in some arenas, that can be really helpful and necessary even, but it's not always the case in life, and it's so easy for us to extend that competitive spirit and kind of anxiety that it builds. You know, not everyone is made for competition. Not everyone has that mindset of cutthroat attitudes, or kind of like I have to fend for myself and defend myself against everyone and everything, and I can't rely on anyone. That's not the case, really, not anymore. And if it is your case, if you feel that way, then it's time to re-examine your relationships and your thoughts and your attitude and your mindset towards others and your expectations of other people, what you expect them to give you, and the assumptions that we are placing onto others in situations and circumstances that if they're not meeting certain criteria that we've set, we feel disappointed or upset or betrayed or defeated. And you see, the thing is, whenever we experience something in life or a dynamic like competition or the competitive spirit, wherever it is, at home, in a relationship, whether it's jealousy towards your partner, looking at other people or being looked at by others, or fearing that you're going to lose them because other people might look a better way according to what you think, etc., etc. You know, we only enter that dynamic when we play the game. And it's up to us individually to be cognizant and mindful and aware of the game that's going on, and that life is a game, and it's composed of so many, of myriad, diverse, a multitude, an infinity of little games, that little universes and microcosms that every person and community and family and unit and individual that we concoct in our own mind, in our head. And so the point is that you don't have to play certain games in life. You don't have to play every game. You don't have to step into the ring, so to speak. You can be an observer. You can be an objective analyzer. You can study the dynamics. You can study yourself. You can learn to appreciate different situations and look at yourself and your own behavior. And how are you contributing to whatever's going on? And what are your actions? What are you doing? What are you not doing? Sometimes the biggest things, the biggest answers are actually unspoken, or the greatest messages are actually just in silence. So it's just a message to remind yourself that life is not a competition. It only is if you choose to see it that way, if you step into the ring and accept the match that you yourself seem to have created. It's up to us. We have the capacity to say no, even in our own head, even when other people don't speak a word. You can decide in your own head, you know what, I'm not going to play these games with myself, with others. I'm just going to choose to stay in your lane. Going back to the metaphor and analogy of driving and wanting to beat another driver, or get there first, or like get ahead of another car. It's all so, it's endless, you know. It happens one day after the other if that's who we choose to be and if that's how we see things. Rather, we can choose to see things as more of a community, as more of building each other up. We are here to prosper each other, to bless and support each other and help each other, for whomever can accept it, whoever's open and receiving it. Some people ask for help. Some people want your help and you want others' help. And sometimes others don't and they flat out reject it, and that's perfectly fine. The key is to not overwhelm other people with your own presence or with your intention, whatever that may be, but stay in your lane and honor your own path and your own journey, and remind yourself that, hey, I'm not here to beat anyone, because what does that really give me? It gives me temporary satisfaction, but it still leaves me feeling insecure because I fed the ego motivation, the lack mindset or the lack motivation that made me believe that I need to beat someone or something, or to have more than them, or outwit them, or outwin them, so that I can feel good about myself and be worthy in whatever it is that I think worthiness is. And yet it's not enough. I want more. Like when you want more food, it's never enough if you're eating junk food. So it's never enough if you're thinking junk thoughts and then feeding yourself into these junky actions, right? And then when that's the case, just if you've been driving that old car, then it's time to let that car end and take it to the junkyard and put it at rest, let it go. Release that from your life and say goodbye in the junkyard to junky thoughts and stinking thinking. And remind yourself, we are here to prosper each other. We are here to bless each other. We are here to support and help each other, however that may happen. And sometimes that help and support and assistance does not need to be overt, such as, and can I help you? Or how can I help? Or what did I do to help? Or this and that. But sometimes it's just by sending forth loving thoughts and compassionate energy, being someone who holds the space in being quiet and listening, or just not fighting back. And that, you may notice, is even harder than taking action, because you want to defend yourself. But then that defense opens up that, again, that race, that competition, that I want to be right, so you must be wrong. Because if I'm right, then how can we both be, right? So it's a no-win. It's just endless. And if it wins today, if one person wins today, tomorrow they'll lose, because that's the give and take of life. And so, my friends, the point is that the more that we encourage ourselves to view things from a different perspective, step out of that old car, open the door, step out onto the road, and close the door and let the junkyard take it away, because it no longer really supports who you are or what you want for your life, you begin to open up the road and the doors for a better ride, for a better experience, one that at least isn't so consistently dotted with anxiety and self-doubt and guilt and a defensive mindset where others are the enemy. It doesn't have to be that way. And just trust and allow that it is okay, no matter what others are doing or saying. Everyone can only be reacting from their own stresses or their own tensions or fears or perceived limitations or who they've been for so many years. It's enough work to change ourselves, so don't try to change anyone else, right? So anyhow, that's it for now, my friends. That's been our personal power life insight. Life is not a competition. You do want to get home, or you do want to get to work. You want to get there in the good time, but it doesn't have to be by you beating someone else. It can just be by you getting there wherever you need to be at the perfectly right time. And no one else is holding you back. You don't have to play certain games. You can step out of one rink and go into a completely different one that feels much better and that lives up and plays up to your own unique talents and abilities. Everyone is made to play a different game. So find your game and play that. Okay, over and out. See you soon. Many thanks and blessings from Jen at Personal Power Life Coaching for Wellness. Namaste. And let's keep seeing the positive, the beautiful, and the joyful in everyday life.